The last signal the sky above Tikal was not blue. It was a deep, molten gold, streaked with swirls of copper clouds that shimmered under the twin suns. Sharp rock spires jutted from the ground like the teeth of some colossal beast, and the air vibrated faintly with the hum of the planet's core. For most visitors, Tikal was awe-inspiring. For Jacques Rayner, it was a cage. Jacques pressed his palm against the cold metal of the communication console and let out a slow breath. He hadn't spoken to Earth in over 6 months, and now, there was nothing but static. Still nothing? Asked a soft, melodic voice behind him. He turned. Talira, the Takalarian engineer who had become his unlikely ally, was watching the readouts with wide, luminous eyes. Her skin shimmered faintly, like liquid silver, and her multifaceted eyes reflected every flicker of the console. Nothing, Jacques replied, grinding his teeth. No signals. No response. Earth might already be gone. Talira tilted her head. Gone? You mean destroyed? I don't know yet, Jacques said. But if the rumors are true, it's bad. Worse than we imagined. The hum of the planet suddenly shifted, growing louder, vibrating through the floor and walls of the observatory. Jacques' hand went instinctively to the sidearm at his hip. Earth's final transmission, he muttered under his breath. You have doomed yourselves. He remembered the message like a ghost seared into his mind. It had come through the last functioning satellite relay, a garbled, desperate voice repeating the same chilling words. You have doomed yourselves. Selinari, they're coming. Jacques had spent weeks deciphering the transmission. The Selinari were an alien faction with unmatched technology, capable of warships that could erase entire cities. Earth had fought bravely, but against the Selinari, humanity was outmatched, but Jacques wasn't about to give up. Not yet? Do you really think the Selinari will reach here? Talira asked, her voice trembling slightly. They're faster than anything we've ever seen, Jacques said. And they don't negotiate. They destroy. But if we can get this planet's defenses online, we might buy Earth some time. Or at least survive ourselves. Talira frowned. Planetary defenses? You mean the old orbit cannons? Those are relics. Exactly, Jacques said, running a hand through his sweat-damp hair. Relics that still fire. If I can get them calibrated, we might have a chance. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, the alien engineer looked like a child staring at a star she'd been told was unreachable. You really think you can do it? Jacques' jaw tightened. I don't think. I have to. Suddenly, the observatory's doors hissed open. A squad of Takalarian security drones rolled in, their lights slicing through the golden haze. They moved with precise, mechanical rhythm, weapons at the ready. Jacques Rayner. A voice boomed, amplified through the drone speakers. It was clipped, formal, almost human in its cadence. You are under arrest for unauthorized tampering with classified planetary technology. Jacques' eyes narrowed. You've got to be kidding me. You know the law, the speaker continued. No civilian human or otherwise may access the orbital defense grid without explicit authorization from the High Council. He glanced at Talira. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. You can't let them stop us, he said. I know, she whispered. But they won't listen. Jacques cursed under his breath. He hadn't planned for this. Not now. Not when the Selinari fleet could already be en route to Tikal. Every second lost was another second closer to annihilation. He made a quick decision. Follow my lead. No one tells a human no when survival's on the line. With that, Jacques slammed a hand on the console, sending a pulse of energy through the room. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the drones staggered, momentarily disoriented. He grabbed Talira's arm. Run! He shouted. They bolted through the corridors of the observatory, metallic echoes of alarms chasing them. Jocks could hear the drones regaining coordination behind them, their mechanical voices shouting in an alien tongue he didn't understand. The planet's core trembled violently as they reached the edge of the observation deck. Outside, the twin suns were dipping behind jagged mountains, casting elongated shadows across the jagged landscape. Over there, Jocks pointed to a maintenance lift leading down into the underground tunnels. Without hesitation, they jumped. The lift shuddered and groaned, descending into darkness. Sparks rained from the walls as the tremors from the planet's core grew stronger. Jocks's mind raced. If Earth was already doomed, if the Selinari were coming, then Takalar might be the last stand for humanity's hope. And he was the only human who could make it count. The lift hit the bottom of the tunnel with a jarring thud. Jocks pushed the heavy door open, revealing a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors. Strange, alien symbols lined the walls, pulsing faintly like living veins. The smell of ozone and burning metal filled his nostrils. This way, he whispered to Talira, leading her through the twisting passage. Every step echoed in the cavernous tunnel, making him feel like the walls themselves were listening. Then, without warning, the ground shook violently. Dust and small rocks rained down from above. A deep, resonant rumble filled the corridor. Jocks's stomach dropped. "That's no tremor," he said. His voice was tight with dread. Something's coming." Talira grabbed his arm, eyes wide. "What is it?" Jocks didn't answer. He could see it in the shadows ahead, a shape, impossibly large, moving toward them through the tunnel. Its silhouette was jagged, alien, and terrifyingly fast. And then it spoke. Not in words, but in a sound that rattled the bones, vibrating deep in their chests. A low, resonant hum that made every instinct in Jocks scream. "You have doomed yourselves." Jax froze. Talira's hand trembled in his. It knows we're here." Jocks swallowed hard, his mind racing. "If this thing knows about Earth, if it's connected to the Selinari, then we're not just running for our lives. We're running for the last message of humanity." And then the creature lunged from the shadows. Asterisk shadows of the Selinari. Alien lunged, a blur of jagged metal and sinew, fused in impossible symmetry. Jocks barely rolled to the side, feeling the corridor vibrate from the impact as the creature's claws scraped along the tunnel walls. Sparks flew, and the symbols lining the walls pulsed brighter, almost in warning. Talira screamed, but Jocks grabbed her, pushing her behind his back. "Stay close." He barked. The creature paused, cocking its massive head. Its hum filled the tunnel, a low-frequency vibration that seemed almost intelligent, almost like it was listening. Then it recoiled, its movement almost ... cautious. What is it?" Talira gasped, her luminous eyes reflecting terror and awe. "Scout," Jocks said, squinting into the shadows. "A Selinari scout. They're probing, mapping, looking for resistance." Talira shivered. "And if it finds us?" Jocks didn't answer. He couldn't. He had spent years dodging impossible odds, repairing broken ships, surviving alien worlds, but this was different. This wasn't just survival. This was the last thread connecting Earth to the galaxy. Asterisk. "Move." He hissed. They darted down a side corridor, the scout following with terrifying precision. Its hum shifted, almost like it was laughing or mocking them. Sparks rained from overhead panels as they ran. At a junction, Jocks slammed a hand on a control panel. A metal grate descended from the ceiling, temporarily blocking the scout. Talira gasped. "How did you—" she began, but Jocks didn't answer. Asterisk, he was already moving again, pulling her along through a maintenance hatch, leading into the bowels of Tikalar's ancient defense network. This network was designed before the planet had even made contact. With other species, a series of tunnels, control rooms, and underground bunkers built to survive even a planetary cataclysm. Earth didn't send help, he muttered. But if we can get the orbital cannons online, we can send a message. Warn anyone left alive. Maybe even stop the Selinari from spreading. Talira looked doubtful. You really think humans can handle all of this? Shocks smirked faintly, though his heart was racing. We've done worse with less. They emerged into a massive underground chamber, walls lined with rusting machinery and dormant weapon systems. Faded murals told of Tekalar's ancient history, war, peace, and survival against impossible odds. Jax's hand hovered over the central console. This is it, the control hub. Talira stepped closer, examining the interface. It's ancient. Some of these systems haven't been touched in 1,000 years. Perfect, Jax said, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. Nothing the Selinari have seen before. Nothing they can predict. He began typing commands, forcing systems to come online. Sparks flew, gears ground, and screens flickered to life, showing orbital maps and defensive vectors. Wait, Talira said suddenly, pointing at one of the monitors. Jax, look at this. He leaned in. His stomach dropped. On the screen, hundreds of Selinari drones were emerging from a tier in the upper atmosphere. Not just one fleet. Dozens converging on Tikalar. They're faster than we thought. He muttered, much faster. The hum returned, low and menacing. The scout had found them again. It slithered along the tunnels, its movements faster, more precise. We don't have time, Jax said. We need to get these cannons calibrated. Now? Talira nodded, already moving to assist. Together, they worked through the ancient interface, bypassing encrypted security protocols and rerouting power from dormant reactors. Sparks flew, warning sirens blared, and the entire chamber vibrated. As if the planet itself was aware of the impending assault, minutes felt like hours. Sweat poured down Jax's face, his hands trembling as he synchronized the targeting systems. Talira guided him, her alien mind calculating angles and trajectories far faster than any human could. Finally, the orbital cannons hummed, lights glowing green ready to fire. Jax exhaled sharply. We're ready, but... He glanced at the monitor, watching the Selinari drones descend like a storm. If they breach the shields, none of this matters. Suddenly, the scout burst into the chamber. It moved faster than ever, its form seeming to shift, almost phase in and out of reality. Talira screamed and stumbled backward, knocking over a critical power conduit. Sparks erupted, and alarms blared violently. The hum intensified. Vibrating in their chests, .JAX drew his sidearm, firing at the scout. His bullets bounced harmlessly off its metallic skin. It was invulnerable. Run! He shouted, grabbing Talira. They dove through a maintenance hatch as the scout smashed through the console, sending a shower of sparks and metal fragments into the air. The hatch led them into a narrow service tunnel. Dust and smoke filled the air. Jax's heart pounded. Talira clutched his arm tightly. They're everywhere, she gasped. They know everything. Jax didn't answer. He already knew. The Selinari were not just fast, not just powerful, they were intelligent, methodical, and unrelenting. And Earth had already fallen. He clenched his jaw. We have to finish this. The last transmission, it's not just a warning. It's a weapon, and we're going to use it. The tunnel suddenly ended in a massive vertical shaft. A ladder descended into darkness. Below, the faint glow of an underground river illuminated the cavern. Jax swallowed hard. This is it, he said. No turning back. He began climbing. Talira followed, her fingers gripping the metal rungs. Behind them, the hum of the Scout grew louder. Its presence was almost tangible, a pressure that pushed against their very minds. Then, a deafening crack echoed through the shaft. Part of the ladder above them shattered, sending jagged metal plummeting into the darkness below. Talira screamed. Jax reached for her hand, pulling her up as the shaft trembled violently. Rocks and dust fell around them, and a strange, resonant voice, the same voice from Earth's final transmission, echoed in the cavern. "You have doomed yourselves." Jax's stomach dropped. He had thought this was just a scout. He had thought he could outsmart it. He was wrong. Something massive was moving above them, something that could crush the entire chamber with a single strike. And now, it knew they were here. Asterisk fire in the Ozek. Jax's fingers burned as he clung to the ladder, pulling Talira up behind him. The vertical shaft trembled violently, sending shards of metal and rock crashing around them. Dust filled their lungs, stinging their eyes, and the roar of the Selinari presence above pressed into their minds like a hammer. "Almost there," Jax shouted, though his voice felt weak against the chaos. "Keep climbing." Talira's arms shook with exhaustion. It's too strong. We won't make it." "Humans never do the easy thing," Jax muttered grimly. "We survive by doing the impossible." Above them, a shadow moved, massive and jagged, its edges flickering like fractured glass. The Scout, or whatever larger entity it was, recalibrating, readying itself for a strike. Then, without warning, part of the ladder above them snapped. They fell, sliding down rungs, their bodies scraping raw against the metal. Sparks rained down, mingling with the dust. Talira cried out, but Jax caught her before she plunged into the darkness below. "Focus," he barked. "We can't die here." "Not now." Finally, they reached the bottom of the shaft, landing in the shallow waters of an underground river. The glow from bioluminescent minerals revealed cavern walls etched with alien markings, ancient warnings, or prayers. Jax couldn't tell. All he knew was survival. Where now? Talira whispered, shivering. "Through the water," Jax said. "Follow me." They waded through the icy current, the water lapping against their knees. Every step echoed ominously. Above them, the hum grew louder, closer, as though the entity was stalking them through the tunnels. Then they reached a massive chamber. At its center stood the dormant orbital cannon control core, a huge, circular console surrounded by pillars carved from the living rock of the planet. Sparks danced along broken cables, and the air hummed with latent power. Jax's eyes gleamed. "We're here. Time to make this relic sing." Talira hesitated. "Jax, are you sure? The Selinari? They might. I don't have a choice." He interrupted. "Not for me. Not for Earth. Not for anyone counting on us." He grabbed the controls and began rerouting power from auxiliary generators. The ancient systems groaned to life, screens flickering with maps, star charts, and weapon diagnostics. Talira moved to assist, her alien mind working through calculations faster than he could comprehend. Together, they sensed the cannons to track. The incoming fleet of Selinari drones. "They're coming in waves," Talira said. "Hundreds, thousands. If we misfire, Takalar won't survive either." "Then we don't misfire," Jax said, gripping the console. "We aim, we fire, we survive." A low rumble echoed through the chamber. The Scout, or the greater entity, was approaching. The walls of the cavern shook as massive claws scraped across the stone. Jax's heart raced. "Ready?" he asked, Talira. Nodded, fear etched across her face, but determination in her eyes. "Ready." He activated the targeting system. The orbital cannons hummed, rotating and charging in sequence. Light arced along the conduits, and the chamber vibrated with raw power dots suddenly. The scout burst into the chamber, larger and more terrifying than before. Its metallic body shimmered, folding in and out of reality, hum resonating with Earth's last words. "You have doomed yourselves." Jax's instincts screamed, but he kept his focus. "Talira, fire the first sequence." The cannons roared, massive beams of energy slicing through the chamber ceiling, bursting into the sky above Tikal. Outside, the twin suns glinted off the incoming Selinari fleet, thousands of drones scattering like metallic swarms. The first volleys hit. Explosions lit the sky as drones were obliterated mid-flight. But the Selinari adapted, recalibrating faster than expected. Another wave surged forward, faster, deadlier. Talira's eyes widened. They're learning. They're adapting to our patterns. Jax gritted his teeth. Then we changed the pattern. Improvisation is a human trait, remember? He began manually adjusting the cannons, feeding them unpredictable trajectories. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but the orbital weapons followed his commands with precision born of desperate ingenuity. One by one, Selinari drones fell, streaks of light marking humanity's defiance. But then, a horrifying realization struck. Both of them. The scout they'd been chasing them was not alone. Through the cavern entrance, Jax saw them, dozens of larger, more monstrous forms emerging from the shadows. The Selinari had deployed ground units, not just drones in space, but sentinels on the planet's surface, converging on the underground chamber. "We're surrounded," Talira whispered, fear finally breaking through her determination. "No," Jax said firmly. "We're human. We don't get surrounded. We fight our way out." He grabbed a detonator from a nearby panel. "If we can hold them here long enough for the cannons to finish, we might survive. Or at least send the message." Asterisk, the hum intensified. The scout loomed above, massive and menacing. Its metallic skin folded and shimmered, revealing intricate alien patterns, a language of destruction written across its body. Jax's stomach twisted. He had seen humanity survive impossible odds before, but this was beyond anything he'd ever faced. Yet the thought of Earth, of the final transmission, drove him forward. "On my mark," he said. 3, 2, 1. A deafening explosion rocked the chamber as he triggered the detonator. Rocks and debris flew, water sprayed and all. Directions, and the scout screeched in a sound that rattled the walls. Jax and Talira were thrown against the far wall, groaning from the impact. The chamber was a storm of dust, sparks, and noise. When the chaos settled, Jax blinked, scanning the ruined cavern. The scout was still moving, but something was different. Its form changed. The alien patterns along its body glowed, and for the first time, it seemed to pause almost, studying them. Talira's voice was a whisper. "Jax, it's waiting?" Jax swallowed hard. He knew the Selinari were calculating, relentless, but he saw a flicker of something that humans understood. Hesitation. "We've bought ourselves." "A little time," he said, "but not much." Asterisk, and then the monitors of the orbital cannon control hub flickered violently. A new signal appeared, one that made Jax's blood run cold. It was Earth. A transmission. Lev, faint, garbled but unmistakable. And a voice spoke, clear despite the static. "Jax? Humanity, listen. You have only hours? The Selinari, not what you think." Asterisk, the screen went black. Jax's eyes widened. "What do they mean? Not what we think." Talira grabbed his arm. "We have to move. Whatever's coming, it's worse than the scout." And above the chamber, the shadows shifted. The scout's pause was over. It lunged again, but this time, not alone. Asterisk, the true enemy, The scout's screech echoed through the cavern, but it was no longer alone. Shadows shifted along the chambers, edges larger, darker, more alien than anything Jax had imagined. Their forms twisted and elongated as if reality itself bent around them. The Salinari had come to Tekkaler not merely as invaders, but as judges. Jax's fists clenched. They're not just here to fight. They're here to eradicate everything. Talira's eyes glimmered in fear. I've never seen anything like this. They're sentient weapons. They think. They adapt. He nodded grimly. Exactly why we have to improvise. Above them. The scout shimmered, and then, impossibly, it split. Where there had been one, now there were three each moving independently, but in perfect synchronization. The patterns on their bodies glowed brighter, almost communicating. Jax's mind raced. The orbital cannons could obliterate their drones in orbit, but the ground units, these monstrous sentinels, were already closing in, and the chamber wouldn't hold them forever. We need a plan. Fast, Jax muttered, scanning the room. For anything that could help, Talira pointed to the cavern walls. Those markings, they aren't just decorative. They're part of the planet's ancient energy grid. If we can activate it. Activate it? Jax raised an eyebrow. Explain. Before the things behind us tear us apart. They amplify and redirect energy, Talira said. The ancients used it to power defenses, or even weapons. If we channel the orbital cannon beams through this grid, we can hit the Salinari with something they won't expect. Jax's lips curved into a grim smile. Humans love a good improvisation. They worked quickly, rerouting conduits, connecting the energy nodes to the orbital targeting system. Sparks flew, cables hummed, and the air crackled with raw power. Jax adjusted the controls, using a combination of human intuition and Talira's alien calculations. Almost there, he muttered. Just a few more adjustments. But the Salinari were relentless. One of the ground units lunged across the chamber, its claws smashing into a pillar. Dust and debris fell around them. The shock wave threw Jax and Talira off balance. Hold. On, he shouted. Together, they stabilized the last connections, bracing as the energy grid roared to life. The orbital cannons outside powered up, sending beams of light down through the cavern openings. Energy raced along the ancient conduits, magnifying with each pulse. Jax gritted his teeth. This is it. Now, Talira. She hit the final switch. A pulse of blinding light erupted, coursing through the cavern and out into the alien sky. The Salinari units froze, their synchronized patterns flickering violently. Then, one by one, the scout and its allies screeched, faltered, and dissipated into shimmering fragments. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Talira collapsed against the console. Did we do it? Jax exhaled, scanning the chamber. We've bought time, but not much. Then, a new signal appeared on the control monitors. Earth. Again. The voice was distorted, urgent. Jax. The Salinari. They're not what? You think they're instruments. Not sentient in the way we believed. They respond to fear, to desperation, and to hope. Use that wisely. Jax frowned. Instruments? What does that mean? Before Talira could respond, the cavern trembled violently. A section of the ceiling collapsed, revealing a massive, translucent structure hovering above the chamber. It was unlike any Salinari. Unit, they had underestimated the scale, the intelligence, the purpose. The structure pulsed with light, resonating with the chamber's energy. And then it spoke, not in words, but in a series of vibrations that Jax could feel in his bones. You have survived longer than expected. Why? Talira swallowed hard. It's communicating, not attacking yet. Jax's mind raced. If they respond to hope, then maybe Maybe we can convince them, or manipulate them. Listen, he said quietly, gripping Talira's arm. These things, they're not monsters. They're reactions. If we can show them humanity's ingenuity, our ability to adapt, to survive, maybe we can turn this around. Talira's eyes widened. You mean use hope as a weapon? Exactly, Jock said. Humans have survived worse odds. We fight smarter, not just harder, and we care. That's something they can't calculate yet. The cavern shook again as the larger Selinari instruments pulsed with energy, reacting to the human presence. Beams of light scanned the chamber, almost like probing eyes. Jax clenched his fists. We have to show them who we are. Talira nodded, determination hardening her features. Then we make them understand, together. But just as they prepared to channel the next energy pulse, a voice louder, clearer, and filled with cold authority resonated from the hovering structure. You defy purpose. You cannot survive. You are doomed. Jax's stomach tightened. The Selinari were adapting faster than he had anticipated. Every second counted. He grabbed Talira's hand. We've faced worse, and we've won. If they think fear will stop us, they're wrong. Completely wrong. Talira squeezed his hand, her voice steady. Then let's show them exactly what humans can do. Above, the Selinari structure pulsed brighter, its vibrations echoing like a heartbeat. And then the chamber doors blew open with a deafening roar. More Selinari ground units poured in, faster, stronger, and far more coordinated than before. Jax and Talira braced themselves, but Jax's eyes gleamed with fierce determination. We are human, and humans don't surrender. He activated the last sequence, channeling hope, ingenuity, and sheer defiance into the energy grid. The cavern lit up like a star. Outside, Tuckeler's twin suns reflected off the orbital cannons, firing in unpredictable patterns. The Selinari instruments recoiled, responding to something they hadn't anticipated. And then, in the distance, Jack saw it, a tear in the sky, a faint shimmer of the unknown. Earth's final transmission, sending a pulse back through the stars. Guiding the fight, the Selinari hesitated, but the larger units were closing in. Jax gritted his teeth. It's not over. Not by a long shot. Humanity's defiance. The cavern shook violently as Selinari ground units poured in, their metallic forms clanking and folding in ways that defied physics. The air was thick with the scent of ozone, sparks, and fear, but Jax's resolve was unshakable. We've got one shot at this, he said, scanning the energy grid's readouts. One clean pulse, perfectly timed with the orbital cannons. That's our leverage. Talira's multifaceted eyes reflected the flickering lights of the approaching units. If it fails, she whispered, then we fail, Jax said bluntly. But humans rarely give up before the impossible is even attempted. The Selinari instruments above pulsed, sending vibrations that rattled the chamber. Every pulse felt like a countdown, a threat, a warning, and yet Jax noticed something strange. Each time the humans acted, the instruments hesitated, flickering, almost confused. See that? He said, pointing to the glowing patterns along. The instruments' surfaces. They respond to us. They feel our choices. Talira nodded, a mixture of awe and fear on her face. Hope. They respond to hope as Earth warmed. Jack smiled grimly. Then we give them hope, human hope. He began rerouting more power into the conduits, amplifying the energy pulse through the ancient Tekala grid. Sparks leapt along the walls, illuminating the alien murals that told stories of survival, war, and ingenuity. He felt a strange kinship with the ancients, humans and Tekala alike, refusing to surrender in the face of annihilation. the first wave of Selinari. Units slammed into the chamber. Claws and metal tore through walls, sending debris raining down. Jax and Talira ducked, rolling through the chaos. "Focus on the grid," Jax shouted. "We need every joule of energy for this pulse." Asterisk Talira moved with precision, channeling. Calculations faster than any human mind could. "It's unstable," she shouted. "If we push too much, it'll explode." "Then we push smarter, not harder," Jax said, gritting his teeth. "We calculate, improvise, survive." He glanced at the approaching units. The Selinari were relentless, yet every movement of Jax and Talira caused hesitation in the alien instruments. The energy pulses from the grid seemed to communicate. Humanity was resourceful, unpredictable, and above all, alive.jax drew a deep breath. Now, asterisk, he activated the pulse. Energy surged along the conduits, coursing upward, magnified by the Ticholarian grid. Light erupted in blinding streaks, colliding with the Selinari instruments above. The chamber shook as the instruments convulsed. Screeches, vibrations, and resonant hums filled the air. The ground units faltered, their coordinated assault breaking. Sparks and fragments of metal floated mid-air as the instruments' pulsing intensified. Then suddenly, stabilized. Asterisk Talira stared, trembling. They're listening, watching, reacting. Jax nodded, sweat dripping down his face. "They don't understand humans yet, but they will." Asterisk outside, the orbital cannons followed Jax's commands, firing in unpredictable patterns. Beams struck the Selinari drones, detonating them with precision. The combination of hope, ingenuity, and sheer unpredictability created chaos in the enemy ranks. Asterisk. One of the larger instruments hovered closer, pulsing brighter. Its vibrations were almost sentient, probing, analyzing. And then, in a moment that froze Jax's blood, it spoke not in words, but in a resonant, bone-deep vibration. "Why do you persist?" Jax's pulse quickened. He straightened, meeting the alien probe's presence with unflinching human resolve. "Because we survive," he said aloud. "Because humans endure when others fail. Because we adapt. Because we care." Talira's hand found his. "You're talking to it?" "I am," Jax said firmly. "Humans make their intentions clear. Hope is our weapon." The instruments pulsed again, brighter this time. The Selinari ground units faltered, then retreated, scanning the humans warily. Jax realized something crucial. The Selinari weren't just instruments. They were adaptive entities responding to emotional signals, to ingenuity, to life itself. Suddenly, a massive vibration rocked the chamber. One of the instruments, the largest, loomed directly above Jax and Talira, blocking the only exit. Its pulsating surface revealed glimpses of distant worlds, battles, and civilizations long lost. "You defy purpose." It resonated. "Your survival is an anomaly." Jax squared his shoulders. "Then let us be the anomaly," he said. "If surviving is a mistake, then humans are the best mistake you've ever made." For a heartbeat, everything froze. The cavern was silent, save for the faint hum of the energy grid. Then, astonishingly, the massive instrument tilted, almost reverently, and hovered back. The Selinari units above and below seemed to hesitate, scanning the humans with an unfamiliar pattern. Talira let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It's listening, not attacking." Jax's lips curled into a grim smile. "Humans aren't just survivors. We're teachers. We're innovators. We're hope." But victory came at a cost. The cavern's walls were crumbling. Debris everywhere, and the energy pulse had destabilized parts of the grid. Sparks and smoke filled the air. Jax knew they had only minutes before the chamber became uninhabitable. "We need to finish the transmission," he said, moving to the communication console. Earth sent us a warning. We have to send a signal back. A record of what humans can do, what we've survived. Talira nodded, her determination renewed. Let's make it count. Jox began typing rapidly, using both human ingenuity and Ticalarian technology to encode a message. He recorded their fight, their strategy, their defiance, and their message to the stars. Humanity survives against all odds. Above, the largest instrument pulsed once more. The vibration was almost approving. It didn't attack. It observed. It waited. And then through the chaos, the Selinari drones in orbit began to falter. Systems overloaded by the combined energy pulse and orbital cannon attacks. Jox's message had disrupted them, even partially. We did it, Talira whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. Jox shook his head. Not yet. Survival isn't done until... Everyone knows we survived. The chamber trembled violently. A new voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the cavern, different from the scout, from the instruments, from any Selinari entity they'd faced. You have exceeded expectations. But time is limited. Show us more. Jox's jaw tightened. We will. Humans never give up. Not now. Not ever. And then, from the shadows, a new figure emerged, neither fully Selinari nor fully alien by any known standards. Its presence radiated intelligence, curiosity, and a quiet menace. Jox's stomach dropped. This was no scout. This was the real vanguard of the Selinari, the decision-maker, the entity behind the instruments. Talira grabbed his arm. Jox, it's evaluating. You, Jox drew a slow breath, every instinct screaming danger. Then we give it a reason to fear us, respect us, and hope with us. The entity's eyes, or what passed for eyes, glimmered in the chamber's half-light. Its form shifted and shimmered like liquid crystal. And then it spoke in words Jox could understand, clear and resonant. Why should we not destroy you? Jox's smile was faint but unwavering. Because we're human, and humans never die quietly. The entity pulsed, the cavern vibrating with its silent evaluation. The Selinari units froze. The scout lingered at the entrance, watching, waiting. And for the first time in months, Jox felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel. Hope, but he knew the fight wasn't over. Asterisk. The Vanguard's judgment. A cavern trembled with the presence of the Vanguard. Its form shimmered like liquid crystal, edges folding impossibly, reflecting Tackler's golden skies and the chaotic lights of the orbital cannons. Jox felt the weight of the universe pressing down on him. Earth's final transmission, the survival of humanity, and the fate of this alien world all converging in this moment. Why should we not destroy you? The Vanguard repeated, its resonance vibrating through Jox's bones. Jox stepped forward, shoulders squared, heart racing but mind razor-sharp. Because humanity doesn't just survive. We adapt. We care. We build when others tear down. We fight not for ourselves, but for everyone who can't fight. That is why we endure. Talira's voice quivered, but she joined him. We've shown you. Look at what humans can do. Improvisation, compassion, ingenuity. We can coexist. We can contribute. We can make a difference. The Vanguard pulsed, light rippling across its crystalline surface. Around them, the Selinari units froze, scanning, hesitating. The scout at the entrance hovered, almost expectantly. Jox felt a surge of hope. It reacts to intent, to purpose, to humanity's defiance. He moved toward the central console, fingers flying over the ancient Ticalarian controls. We need to finish the transmission. Every word, every image, every piece of what humans are needs to go out. Talira assisted, rerouting energy from the orbital cannons to amplify the signal. Sparks flew, The cavern hummed with raw power, and the golden twin suns above bathed the chamber in surreal light. Outside, beams of light from the orbital cannons streaked into the sky, striking the incoming Selinari drones. The pulses rippled through space, causing the enemy units to falter. They weren't being destroyed, they were being evaluated, measured against something the Selinari hadn't anticipated: human hope and ingenuity combined with action. The Vanguard pulsed brighter, its vibrations resonating like a heartbeat. "You are unusual." AX single quotes SI's narrowed. "We're human. Unusual isn't the problem, it's our advantage." Talira hesitated. "Jocks, the energy grid is unstable. If we push any further, the chamber could collapse." He glanced at the massive crystal entity above them. "Then we push smarter, not harder." With careful precision, Jocks adjusted the energy flow, using the ancient conduits to channel power efficiently, synchronizing the pulses with human-controlled cannon fire. Sparks and energy arcs danced across the walls, illuminating murals of Takalar's ancient history stories of civilizations rising and falling. Jocks realized he was writing a new story here, one where humans were not just survivors, but teachers, guides, and, if necessary, warriors. The Vanguard pulsed again, slower this time, its resonance almost contemplative. "You fight not for self, but for others." Jocks's heart leapt. Yes, that's exactly it. He took a deep breath and recorded the final message for Earth and any other species who might intercept it. The story of defiance, courage, and ingenuity. The evidence that humanity could survive the impossible. The proof that hope was as potent as any weapon. As the message transmitted, the orbital cannons unleashed a coordinated pulse, magnified through the Tekalarian grid. Light streaked across the sky, carving a path through the Selinari fleet. Drones faltered, crashed, and some even retreated. The Vanguard's form shimmered, pulsating in response. It hovered closer, crystal edges reflecting the chaos of the battle. "You endure." Through intellect, creativity, and hope. Jocks wiped sweat from his brow. "That's us. That's humanity. We don't just survive, we improve. We adapt, we endure, and we protect others along the way." The Selinari instruments, the scouts, the drones, even the ground units paused. The overwhelming pressure of judgment lifted slightly. It was as if the Vanguard had recognized something it could not quantify: compassion, ingenuity, and courage beyond calculation. Talira let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "It's hesitating. It's listening." But the chamber shook violently. Sections of the walls were collapsing from the energy overload. Sparks flew. Rocks tumbled. Jocks knew they had seconds before the cavern became a tomb. "We have to finish this." He shouted with trembling hands. He finalized the transmission. "Send it everywhere," he ordered. "Let every corner of the galaxy see what humans can do." The Vanguard pulsed one last time, a light so blinding it seemed to press against reality itself. Then, with a shockwave that shook the entire cavern, it lifted away, leaving a silence so deep it was almost deafening. JX staggered, gripping the console. "Did we survive?" Talira looked around, wide-eyed. I think we did. They're gone. At least for now." Outside, the skies of Takalar were littered with the wreckage of Selinari drones, streaked with light from the orbital cannons. The twin suns reflected off shards of metal, creating a breathtaking display of victory and devastation. Jocks slumped to the floor, exhaustion overwhelming him. "We did it. We actually did it." Talira sat beside him, brushing dust from her metallic skin. "You saved more than Takalar. You saved hope." Jocks let out a shaky laugh. "Humans have a funny way of doing that." The chamber's energy grid crackled, stabilizing. The murals of Tikal seemed to glow faintly, as if recognizing the presence of those who refused to surrender. Asterisk. Jocks realized they had not only survived, they had written a new story, one of collaboration, courage, and indomitable human spirit. But above them, in the distant shadows of space, the remnants of the Selinari fleet lingered. The vanguard may have withdrawn, but the galaxy had taken notice. Humanity's defiance was no longer a secret, and somewhere, far across the stars, Earth's final transmission continued to echo. You have survived. You have shown them what humanity can do. Jocks looked at Talira, a weary smile on his face. We've survived this, but the galaxy is just beginning to see what humans are capable of. Talira nodded, hope shining in her eyes. And we'll be ready. Jocks took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all that had happened, the loss of Earth, the threat of annihilation, the unrelenting Selinari, and yet, in that moment, he felt the enduring power of human spirit. We are humans, he thought. We endure. We survive. We rise, Doc, and for the first time in months, he allowed himself to hope, asterisk, a legacy of hope. The twin suns of Tikal rose slowly over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the ruined battlefield. Sparks from shattered Selinari drones glimmered, like distant stars in the golden light. Jocks Raynor stood at the edge of the energy grid chamber, his hands trembling from exhaustion, yet steady with purpose. Talira approached, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the dawn. We survived, she said softly, almost in disbelief. Jocks nodded. More than that, we've sent a message. Earth's final words, our defiance, it's out there now, across the galaxy. Every corner that listens will know that humans endure. The cavern around them was still, save for the crackle of the energy grid. Murals of ancient Tikal heroes glowed faintly, as if acknowledging the courage of these unlikely allies. A human and an alien working together to rewrite destiny. Talira placed a hand on Jocks' shoulder. Do you ever stop worrying? About the Selinari? Jocks allowed himself a weary smile. Worrying is human nature, but humans are more than that. We survive, adapt, and protect. That's what we're known for, and what we're remembered for. Above, the remnants of the Selinari fleet lingered, distant, yet still dangerous. But for now, they had paused, disrupted by the pulse of ingenuity and hope that Jocks and Talira had unleashed. The galaxy had witnessed a lesson. Humanity could not be predicted, could not be calculated, and could not be destroyed easily. Talira's gaze turned toward the horizon. What now? She asked. Jax looked at her, then at the battered instruments, the orbital cannons, and the scars of battle. Now, we rebuild. We help Tikal stand stronger. We honor Earth's memory by showing the galaxy that humanity is more than survival. We're ingenuity, courage, and compassion. And we won't stop there. He paused, feeling the weight of their trials and the enormity of what they had accomplished. The galaxy just learned one lesson. Never underestimate humans. Not their resourcefulness, not their determination, and certainly not their hope. Talira smiled faintly. Hope is a powerful weapon, isn't it? Jocks nodded. The strongest one there is. Stronger than fear, stronger than technology, stronger than the Selinari. They stood together, overlooking the remains of the battlefield. Sparks floated on the wind like fireflies, a reminder of destruction, but also of resilience. The instruments, once terrifying and merciless, had receded, leaving behind an understanding. Humans are not just survivors. They are a force that reshapes fate. The message Jocks had sent pulsed outward through the stars, carrying Earth's final warning, humanity's ingenuity, and a declaration of defiance. Somewhere, far across the void, other civilizations would receive it, inspired or challenged to recognize what humans could accomplish. Talira touched his arm. You think they'll come back? Eventually, Jock said, eyes narrowing at the distant shimmer of the Selinari remnants. But when they do, we'll be ready. Smarter, stronger, and united. Humans aren't just surviving anymore. We're shaping the future. And anyone who doubts that will learn the hard way. A soft wind stirred the cavern, carrying the scent of metal, dust, and life. Jax breathed deeply, feeling a quiet pride, exhaustion, and exhilaration all at once. They had faced annihilation, survived impossible odds, and proved something profound. Humanity's spirit could not be measured, predicted, or destroyed. Talira looked at him, eyes shining with admiration. You really are something else. Jox Rayner. He gave a faint laugh, rough and tired, but full of defiance. Humans are, and now so is our story. Together, they turned back toward the chamber's controls. There were repairs to make, systems to secure, and a planet to save. The Selinari threat was not gone, but humanity had survived its judgment. And as long as humans endured, hope would ripple through the stars, unstoppable, unyielding, unforgettable. Twin suns rose higher, casting light over Tikal, over the instruments, over the battlefield. And in that light, humanity's defiance shone brighter than any weapon, brighter than any enemy, an eternal testament to the power of ingenuity, courage, and compassion. The galaxy had been warmed. Humanity was here. Humanity had survived. And the story was only beginning. Asterisk ending note. Earth's final transmission may have seemed like a warning at first, but through human ingenuity, courage, and hope, Jax and Talira turned despair into a beacon of survival. Humanity's compassion and adaptability overcame impossible odds, leaving the galaxy with a legacy that no calculation or weapon could erase. The HFY spirit, resilient, ingenious, compassionate, remains alive and poised for future stories.